I hope you've had a great couple of weeks. And wasn't it great what Hannah and Amy shared with us? And it was wonderful to see them. So, welcome to Kids Church. And over the last few weeks, we've been looking at the Christian character, what it is to be a Christian. And we've looked at things like faithfulness and gentleness and self-control. And last week we looked at thankfulness. Well, this is the last one of us looking at a Christian character. And today we are going to be talking about attitude. Now, I'm sure you've heard people say that person's got attitude. Or if you see a school report, it says they have a good attitude to work. And sometimes when we think of attitude, we think on the negative terms. But we're going to think about what it means to have a positive attitude. What does a Christian attitude look like? I wonder what are the sort of things you can have in your attitude as a Christian, and are they positive as well, which is quite hard to do all the time. So to explore this, we're going to look at a Bible story in the Old Testament. Now the Bible is made up of two parts, and it's the Old Testament and the New Testament, and we're going to look at the Old Testament. And the book is called Numbers. And so that's quite an easy one to remember, Numbers. And it's the fourth book in the Old Testament, not the New Testament. And he said that wrong, in the Old Testament. And we're looking at Numbers, and it's found in Numbers, around about 13, 14. Let me check yes, 13. And it talks about Moses and the Israelites. Now, it's got a lot of adventure in this. There's spies, a foreign land, there's giants, Anyway, let me start the story. So, Moses had reached to a point at the edge of Canaan, and he wanted to send out some people to go, spies, to go and look at the country and see what was there. And so he asked for one person out of each of the 12 tribes. And so it was 12 men. And he sent them over to Canaan and to explore the land. And he had loads of questions he wanted answered. It's like a shopping list that you, probably if you're going to help your mum do shopping, it's like a shopping list. So he said, I want to know if there are people there, whether there's just a few people or a lot of people. I want to know if they live in tents or live in big cities with big strong walls. I want to know if the land is good or the land is bad. I want to know if it's good for farming, whether we can actually farm things and grow things. I want to know what sort of food is there. And I want to know if the people are strong or if the people are weak. The list was so much. So they had to go and explore. And so they were exploring for a long time. And they went all over the country. And while they were exploring, they found that their cities were really big and they were really strong. They built a brick and they had big walls around them, and the people were actually descendants from giants. And so the people were huge. They were big and powerful. And so they carried on being spies, carefully creeping around, making sure they weren't seen. I wonder how often you can do that, whether you creep around and make sure you're not seen in the house. I wonder if you could try that. See how many rooms you could go around the house without anybody seeing you. That's a challenge for you. Anyway, back to the story. So they had been there and they'd seen the cities and seen the giants, and then they were looking at the food and they found this vineyard and they cut a bunch of grapes from the vineyard. Do you know, it was so heavy that it had to take two strong men on a pole, carrying it on a pole, because one person couldn't carry it on their own. And they found pomegranates and figs. The food and the fruit was wonderful. The trees and the water, the land was really, really good. And so they looked around for about 40 days. That's more than a month. Gosh, 40 days. And they went back to Moses and Aaron, and the 12 of them were there. And of course, they could see them coming, carrying the grapes. Can you imagine their faces when they saw the grapes and the pomegranates and the figs? And they were telling them loads of stories and saying the food was good, there was lots of trees and water, but their cities were really, really big and really strong, and they looked really hard to get into. And to make it even worse, the people were like giants, and they were really quite scary. And so I'm not too sure whether we'll be able to do anything. I don't think we should go and try and take over their country. I think we would fail. And so that's what the spies were saying. But there was 2 spies. There was Joshua and Caleb. And Caleb stood back from the crowd and said, I think we should go. I think we should go and take the land and fight them, and I think we will win. I think the Lord's on our side. I think we will win. I know we will. And Joshua said that as well. And the other 10 spies said, oh, no, to Moses. No, we shouldn't do that. We would surely die. We've seen them. And so they started to spread rumours around the camp to other people. And everybody started crying and saying, no, we shouldn't go. And they just wouldn't listen to Moses. And so, do you know what? They didn't go. Now, there's a lot of other parts of that story. And if you're interested in the story, why don't you read it together? But what I want to talk about now is, let's have a think about 12 spies. 12 spies were together. They saw everything. They saw all the good things, and they saw maybe some of the bad things, and they saw everything together. So I wonder why 10 of the spies thought they couldn't do it, but 2 of them thought they could. And 2 of those 2, Joshua and Caleb, saw exactly the same as what the other 10 spies had seen. So what was different about them? And I think their attitude was different. Their attitude was different. Their attitude was different when they saw the giants and they saw the big cities that were fortified. They saw all that. They saw the fruit. They saw everything. But their attitude to what they saw was different. It was positive, whereas the other 10 was really negative. Maybe you can think of some words about that. So today we're going to explore what it means to have a positive attitude and what it is to have a negative attitude. And some of the things like that. Sometimes, for instance, for your work at home, your schoolwork, sometimes when you see it and you think and you see all the writing, you go on the computer and you think, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. Oh, I can't be bothered doing this. Do you think that would be a good attitude or a bad attitude? I wonder. Yeah, it's a bad attitude. Where if you say, oh, right, do you know, if I start this and do my best, if I work at this, if I take one part at a time, I think I might be able to do that. And if I do start it, maybe I'll finish it quicker. And then I'll get out and do the things I want to do. Yeah, that to me is a positive attitude. And so, with attitude, it's a choice. We can choose to have a good attitude or a bad attitude. And there's loads of things with attitude that you can explore. And there's lots of different activities to do to explore that. So I want you to think of some of the words that give a good attitude and some of the bad attitude. And so it's a great story, and I'd love you to read it again and explore it again. And put up some of your pictures or the things that you've done in the crafts. There's lots of different things this week. And I really look forward to seeing them. And so enjoy exploring what attitude means and how we can have a good attitude and how it is very easy sometimes to have a bad attitude. And look at Joshua and Caleb and the spies. See you next week. Bye.